Hello, welcome back, geographers. Today we are going to be exploring more of glaciation. So, today we're looking at glaciers, past and present. These massive ice formations have literally shaped the world we live in today. So, let's take a look at the slides here. Excellent. Okay. All right. So when geographers talk about the Ice Age with capital letters, we're referring to the Pleistocene Epoch, the most recent major glacial period that profoundly influenced our modern topography. So the Pleistocene began at least 2.58, 2.59 million years ago. Though recent research suggests that it may have started even earlier. What makes this period so remarkable is its pattern of fluctuations between glacial periods, times of extensive ice accumulation, and interglacial periods, times of ice retreat. At its maximum extent, ice covered 1/3 of Earth's total land area. Imagine standing where Chicago is today, about 20,000 years ago. You would be beneath ice that was over a mile thick. Evidence indicates that the last major ice retreat occurred less than 9,000 years ago. And interestingly, we're currently in what's called the Holocene Epoch, which might not be the end of the Ice Age at all, but simply the latest in a series of interglacial periods. With scientists identifying as many as 18 or 19 glacial episodes during the Pleistocene, another glacial period in our future would not be surprising. The Pleistocene didn't just affect areas directly covered by ice. Its influence extended through several processes. So first we have periglacial processes, and periglacial processes occurred in zones beyond the ice sheets, where erosion and deposition from glacial meltwater and frost weathering affected over 20% of Earth's land surface. The tundra regions of Alaska and Siberia today show similar conditions. Sea level changes were dramatic during glacial advances as water became locked in ice. Sea levels dropped so low that the Bering Strait became a land bridge, allowing humans and animals to migrate from Asia to North America and back and forth. So we also see crustal depression. Crustal depression happened as the immense weight of ice, sometimes miles thick, actually pushed Earth's crust downward as much as 4,000 feet. Parts of Canada and northern Europe are still rebounding today, rising a few millimeters each year. We also have pluvial developments. So, pluvial developments or increased rainfall created lakes in regions that were previously dry. The ancient Lake Bonneville in Utah, of which is the Great Salt Lake now, is a tiny remnant formed during this period. So today, ice covers about 10% of Earth's land surface, approximately 15 million square kilometers. Over 96% of this ice is concentrated in just two locations, Antarctica and Greenland. So the Antarctic ice sheet is truly massive, covering 98% of the continent. If you could see beneath the ice, much of the West Antarctica would appear as scattered islands with bedrock below sea level. One fascinating feature is the dry valleys, rare ice-free areas where powerful winds blast snow away, creating an almost Mars-like landscape with seasonal lakes and rivers. I have not personally been to Antarctica, but it is on my list to visit. Greenland's ice sheet, while it is smaller at 1.74 million square kilometers, it is still enormous and significant to Earth. If it melted completely, global sea levels would rise about 24 feet. So I took these images from an airplane flying over Greenland from London to LAX on a clear July day. It is rare that it would be a clear day over Greenland as weather conditions. In fact, shortly after taking these images, we did enter a cloudy area and we could no longer see it. So this is actually the edge of the Greenland continent, and the edge of the continental ice sheets with the ocean here in the background. So this is the ocean here in the background here, and this is some clouding right here. So this in the left is the ocean extending, okay? And you can see where icebergs have formed, okay? Um, and this is a mountainous area. I would not consider this part of the ice sheet of Greenland, but I would consider these mountainous glaciers of Greenland, okay? Where the ice sheet is further beyond. If I was on the other side of the plane, I probably could have seen those. This is further on in our flight where we see some mountainous ice sheets moving down, and you can see the movement moving this direction. Okay. Anytime you take a flight, I highly recommend being in the window seat because you can get a different perspective on our planet and a lot of these landforms that we are learning about today. Okay. So going back to slide 17 here. In the continental US, most remaining glaciers are in the Pacific Northwest, particularly in the North Cascade Mountains, with other significant glaciers in Alaska. Global climate change is dramatically affecting these ice formations. Glaciers serve as a sensitive indicator of environmental change, reflecting variations in both temperature and precipitation amounts. The Antarctic ice sheet has been warming about 0.12 degrees Celsius per decade for the past 50 years, with West Antarctica warming even faster. This warming has contributed to disintegrated ice shelves, meaning that they are not continuous, and accelerated outlet glacier flow, as we've seen with the collapse of the Larsen ice shelf. So as we witness these changes in real time, we are observing geological processes that once took thousands of years. They're happening now within our lifetimes. They're coming apart within our lifetime. Understanding this glacial history helps us better comprehend both Earth's past and its possible future. So thanks for watching this segment. And in the next lecture, we're going to explore how glaciers are formed and how they move.